Hello and welcome to the Federal. This is your host of the program, Off the Beaten Track. My name is Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay. Former Congress President and Member of Parliament from Wayanad, Rahul Gandhi, embarked on the Bharat Jodo Yatra on the 7th of September last year. If all goes as per plan, the Yatra will conclude in Srinagar, marking the successful completion of a march that would have journeyed over 3,700 kilometers and being on the road for over 150 days. From reports, it appears that the Yatra has enthused the Congress leadership and the cadre. It has also transformed the public image of Rahul Gandhi from being seen as a reluctant politician making gaffes regularly. He is now considered mature and credible. But will this enable the Congress party to harness electoral dividend? The question is crucial for two reasons. One, the party performed poorly in the last two parliamentary elections. Another weak performance would make it difficult for the party to stage a comeback. The second reason, the BJP has not just won elections, but also catalyzed a change in the socio-political thinking of the people. Will another inadequate showing of the Congress party indicate complete eclipse of the values that the party once upheld and promoted? These questions become very important because even now, the Congress is the largest opposition party in the country. It may have only 52 Lok Sabha seats in 2019, but the party was second in as many as 196 seats. India is just 400 days away or so from the 2024 parliamentary elections. So will the Bharat Jodo Yatra bring any political rewards for the Congress party? I have as my guest today, Sudha Pai, a very well-known political scientist, author, and columnist. She, after working in the Jawaharlal Nehru University's Department of Political Science for several decades, retired as a professor and as rector of the university. This is a few years back. Welcome to the program, Professor Sudha Pai. The reason to speak to you is because of a very sharp article which you wrote in the Indian Express very recently, where you said that despite the noise, the excitement, and the hullabaloo over the Bharat Jodo Yatra, the question is whether it can bring electoral success for the Congress or not. Now, the question is that had the messaging of against hate and introducing love amongst the various communities, or what is also called bhaichara in the popular political discourse of the country, has it had any kind of an impact?
Well, it has had an impact insofar as the message of love and, what Rahul Gandhi has said, Mohabbat ki dukaan, and so on. So to that extent, it has enthused people. People have come out in large numbers, and it has also created some amount of excitement among the cadres of the Congress party and so on. Right. And that is why the Yatra has sustained itself over so many days and is now reaching almost its fruition.
Right.
It has also, as you mentioned, improved his image and, from a Pappu to a much more credible leader. But I would say that
I'll come to this construction of Pappu, which was created by the BJP a bit later, because I want to spend some time discussing this idea of.
Okay. But I would say that there are two kinds of challenges before the Congress today. One is internal and the other is external. Internally, as I mentioned in my article, there are, as I see it, three, maybe more problems where the Congress is concerned. One is what I've called the high command culture. It is true that a non-Gandhi family member has been officially made the president of the Congress. But every time he speaks, he invokes the name of Rahul Gandhi. And he talks about Rahul Gandhi as the leader and so on and so forth. So that kind of culture is still there. And therefore, collective leadership at the top has not emerged. For example, no elections to the Congress Working Committee.
Right.
Secondly, factionism within the party. While the Bharat Jodo Yatra is going on, we know what is happening in Rajasthan between Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot.
Sachin Pilot.
Which is very unfortunate. And the third is, I would say, organizational disarray, particularly in states like Uttar Pradesh.
Right.
I think these are three internal challenges which the party will have to address after January 30th. That is this enthusiasm forward. And the second, to put it very briefly, is the relationship between the Congress and the other opposition parties. Do they see the Congress as capable of leading them? Or has a new, that BRS organization come up, which sees itself as a non-Congress, non-BJP alternative? So I would say these are the two challenges that the Congress.
Right. There's also the question, the challenge of unity within the Congress, as you said about Rajasthan. I'd also just like to add a bit. We will come and talk about these challenges separately, point by point. The challenge, which has been created because of the developments over Shashi Tharoor in Kerala. Now we have to understand that a very negative image is being sent that Shashi Tharoor is being targeted within the Congress because he decided to stand against, quote unquote, the official candidate for the presidential post. This would be very unfortunate if it happens, if this is the message which goes on. But stepping aside, let me go back to a point which I had deliberated, and one of the articles I had written at the time when in September, Rahul Gandhi embarked on the Yatra. Now, as far as Indian politics goes, right from the anti-colonial movement, there is a long tradition of Yatras in Indian politics, right from the time that Mahatma Gandhi embarked on the Gandhi Yatra. And actually, it was one march which shook the British Empire. Everyone knows that. Even after independence, we had several of them. We had the Bhudan Yatra right in the 1950s at that point. And then by the 1980s, you had Chandrasekhar's Yatra, you had NTR's Yatra, which completely changed the politics of Andhra Pradesh. At that point, it was a unified state. And then ultimately, it does also the Somnath to Ayodhya Yatra of Lal Krishna Advani, which completely changed and brought Hindutva politics into the center stage of Indian politics. So we've had all these yatras of different shades. Where exactly are you fitting, or do you see that the Bharat Jodo Yatra fits in? Also, because let me remind you that the conclusion is at Srinagar, and Murli Manohar Joshi had embarked on a similar Kanyakumari to Srinagar Yatra in 1991 and 1992. And just a sheer coincidence that the national coordinator of that yatra was none other than today's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. So given this backdrop of yatras, political yatra, the tradition, where does Bharat Jodo Yatra fit in? It is not agitating against, it's trying to do something.
Well, I would say that since 2014, it's the first attempt to put forward an alternative message before the country.
Alternative to the BJP's narrative.
To the BJP's narrative of authoritarianism, majoritarianism, Hindutva, and so on. See, in 2014, if I might digress a little bit, the Congress party and all of us knew that if the BJP won, it's the RSS which was coming to power. Because obviously, Narendra Modi, who was going to be the Prime Minister, has been an RSS pracharak. But no attempt was made by the Congress to uphold the value of secularism. They did not attack them on that point at all, not in any other political party. Right. So to that, and then later on, you see there is soft Hindutva, becoming a Shiv Bhakt and all that on the part of Rahul Gandhi, and going to temples and so on and so forth. I think this is the first time that an attempt has been made by him to pose an alternative to the highly polarizing message that Hindutva has sent into this country, particularly between Hindus and Muslims and all minorities. So to that extent, this yatra is unique in the sense that it is an attempt to present a new idea of India, or to go back to some idea which the Congress holds dear and which they seem to have abandoned for some time at least.
I think, that at the core of the BJP's idea and the Congress's idea is actually just one. The difference is that where do you place the minorities? Do you take them along into the process of decision making, or do you keep them aside and say that we will give you whatever is necessary, but do not ask to share power and become part of the power structure at any level? Would you say that is the only and the one difference?
Well, that is a major difference. But there is also the way in which religion and secularism, as it was enshrined in the constitution, is looked at by both these parties.
Right.
It's not as if Mrs. Gandhi didn't visit temples or, didn't.
No, of course she did.
She used it.
And she was also an authoritative leader.
Particularly after 1980. But the BJP has used religion and religiosity in order to gain votes. I think
Right.
that is the difference. And secondly, it has, the whole notion of secularism has been completely set aside. I think that is also another difference. It's part, of course, of the Hindu-Muslim problem. Because if you're secular, then you accept everybody. If you're not secular, then you think, it's a majoritarian country with Hindu majoritarianism and so on. The third, I would say, is the way you look at history.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the national movement, what happened during the national movement and the kind of nation that was visualized during the national movement, I think there are differences. But yes, the core is the Hindu-Muslim relationship, or generally the minorities relationship within the country. I would agree there.
Right.
And the Bharat Jodo Yatra is, in that sense, an attempt to give them some sort of a space without actually saying it so much. I don't think he's actually, he's talked about communalism and so on, but he's talked more about love replacing hatred. And it's an attempt to make the country rise above this politics of hatred which has been there in the country since 2015. In that sense, it has a certain unique character.
Let me, say something from the other side, that not looking at the Bharat Jodo Yatra as actually being so successful, that it is actually basically talking only to an echo chamber. We constantly used to at one point criticize the BJP and Mr. Narendra Modi essentially of talking to the echo chamber, but can we say that this is the same thing that is happening? It's basically the same old intelligentsia which is getting around and walking along with Rahul Gandhi. We have seen several, leading intellectuals of the country. We have seen several film stars of the country, but these are all the people who actually already had faith in the Congress system of belief, if I can actually put it that way. That beyond that, it has really not gone and won over people from who had crossed over to the BJP. It's also the fact that the Bharat Jodo Yatra did not have any significant impact as far as the elections goes in Gujarat was concerned. In fact, the Congress performed very poorly at that point, just around the time when it was actually passing through a nearby state, that is Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. So there obviously has been limitations. How would you say that they have not spoken only to the already converted, just given them some greater amount of confidence? That's about all. But as far as the people are concerned, that it has possibly been 8.5 years of silence. As you said, that after 2014, this is the first time an attempt has been made, that 8.5 years of silence and compromising and also going along with soft Hindutva. It's now really become very late in the day. I'm not saying too late, but very late.
Well, it is late because the BJP has managed to put its narrative across, and large sections of the people seem to have accepted it. There's no other way of explaining their victory in the elections.
Right.
So to that extent, yes, it is late. And it is not very different to the criticism we have made of the BJP. Yes, there is one problem with the Yatra, that it does not offer any alternative political message.
Right.
It did not take the opportunity from time to time to give speeches about what is the alternative that the Congress would offer if it were to come to power. Now, of course, Jairam Ramesh and others have said that this is not a yatra meant to gain political power or to win elections. But then what is the political party about?
Right.
You can't become a tapasvi And so the yatra definitely has a social message, has a cultural message, but it has no political message. And that is why I said in my article that the real work will start after January 30th. What are you
Right.
going to do with some of the enthusiasm that you have generated it? Before
Right.
it dies down, they will have to do something concrete. That is, create an alternative, I don't know what to call it, in political message, some kind of an ideological position of their own, which they don't seem to have at present.
You talked about the real work beginning after the 30th of January. Now, I get reminded of what was happening in the country exactly 40 years ago. 1983, Chandrasekhar was on a yatra. India at that time was also facing a lot of internal strife. There was the problem in Punjab had become very acute. Terrorism was going on. Indira Gandhi appeared to be clueless as to how to handle the Punjab situation. And at that point also, Chandrasekhar's yatra evoked a fair amount of excitement within the intelligentsia and within the media also. As a very young journalist, I remember getting very enthused by the yatra, but then everything got frittered away. So maybe not just 30th of January, right from the time that they left the first port, walked ahead of Kanyakumari into Kerala. By now, already follow-up teams should have been there in the entire route of the yatra. You have very important elections coming up in Karnataka. Is the Congress party really following up on the so-called gains of the yatra in Karnataka itself? What do you think about this? As somebody who's actually very closely followed the Congress party for several decades now.
Well, I'm reminded of what somebody said when Rahul Gandhi went to Chitrakoot years ago for that Congress workers
That's right.
Sammelan. I remember
Yes.
I was
Yes.
also present there with many of my colleagues. And there was this person, I think he was a professor in Allahabad University, and we were traveling together. And he said, क्या है? अगर इंदिरा गांधी होती, वो open jeep में जाती, not in a train from Allahabad to
Right. To
Chitrakoot.
Chitrakoot.
और हर नुक्कड़ पे चाय पीती और भाषण देती
Right.
about the Congress party. Now you see, he had that wonderful opportunity of passing through so many states, Rahul Gandhi. And
Right.
in every state, he could have given a very relevant lecture. So there could have been a fusion of the social and the political.
Right.
Politics is a very broad thing. It includes the social in a way. So yes, you are right that they have missed a golden opportunity. He was there in Kerala. He was there in Karnataka, which is going to elections now. He has passed through UP also, which has been a state that they have been eyeing for so long. But no political speech was given. It was more about how he has become transformed. And, so the whole discourse was around what he was wearing and things like that, and his own personal transformation.
The T-shirt wearing Rahul Gandhi.
Yes.
That became the story.
Yes. So to that extent, yes, that was a brief article. I didn't go into all that, but yes, you are right. They have missed that opportunity of conveying that politically also they are ready to take on the BJP.
Right. Very early on, you had used the phrase, which the BJP has for several years, in fact, more than a decade, possibly, it has been using to label Rahul Gandhi as Pappu, or as somebody who is actually not a very serious person, somebody who should not be taken seriously. Now, two questions. How did this construct come about? Was this in any way fair? And how would you say that he's actually come out of it? He even said something very, which people found very funny, that I have assassinated Rahul Gandhi. मैंने Rahul Gandhi को मार दिया है. It's a very abstract concept. Does it convey anything as far as practical politics is concerned?
Well, the term Pappu was constructed in the run-up to the 2014 elections. If you remember all those interviews that took place of Rahul Gandhi and of Narendra Modi and so on. But it was also that the entire campaign was in a way managed to create this kind of a image. I think it's fairly well known that the BJP has used all kinds of big companies to plan their campaign, event management companies. And this was something that was very well planned because they were very worried about the Congress, which had been in power for two terms. So I think this was a constructed concept. And the attempt was made to portray him as somebody who was not very capable. Now, one reason why they were able to do this is that Rahul Gandhi had not taken on any responsibility in the UPA.
Right.
He had, for example, even been a junior minister and worked his way up in the party. Then today he would have had some kind of an image about having administrated.
Right.
So Narendra Modi was able to juxtapose himself as being chief minister 3 times, whereas Rahul Gandhi had no administrative ability. He had not faced, these kinds of interviews to that extent. If you're a minister,
Right.
you do. So all these things went together to create that. I don't think he deserves to be called a puppet. He may not be, he may not be a very astute political leader or a great strategist, or not everybody is.
He's not a person who's not aware of issues, important issues we want either today or in a historical framework also. Many of us in the media have actually had access to information which dispels the notion that he's absolutely ignorant about most important.
He knows quite a few things. He
Yes.
knows history, he's well read. He may not be a great political leader. Many people are not. Even Indira Gandhi took time to emerge, as
Right.
the
Indira Gandhi had, fingers on the pulse of the people. One question, which emerges from it, you said that Rahul Gandhi did not even become a junior minister. Now, 15 years later, he could have been, a junior minister 15 years back. It's already 2004 is the time when he actually entered public life. So 2 decades, 2024 will be 2 decades of Rahul Gandhi in politics. He's not held, barring for a brief interlude, held any position in any politics, as a Congress president between 2017 and 2019, that period. Even now, he is not holding any position. You have a newly elected Congress president. So how does the Congress go beyond Bharat Jodo Yatra, and how does Rahul Gandhi become part of the attempt for the Congress party to do better than what they did in 2019 and obviously in 2014 also? How do they do it?
Well, long back in 2019, when he resigned, I wrote a piece in The Wire for which I was criticized a great deal. I said when Mrs. Gandhi died, Rajiv Gandhi should not have been made Prime Minister. They could have
Right.
made Pranab Mukherjee, they could have made anybody else. And again, when Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, P.V. Narasimha Rao was made the Prime Minister, and he made a very good Prime Minister. In the sense
Right.
he allowed Manmohan Singh he took us out of our entire economic problems, but he's
Yes.
never been recognized. The
Yes.
Congress party has never recognized the services of P.V. Narasimha Rao and what he did for the country in 1991, together joining hands with Manmohan Singh and so on. Again, after that, Sonia Gandhi, when they won again in 2004, they could have made somebody else the Prime Minister. They did not have, they could have made Manmohan Singh, Finance Minister or whatever it was. But they made this kind of funny system in which everybody said to them that there is a remote control. So the control of the party, of the family could have ended long ago. I'm
Right.
not saying remove the family, but what I suggested at that point was that you make a collective functioning apex.
Would you say that
the family is also subsumed, but important leaders are there, and you also remove all the deadwood of all those in the Congress
Right.
who've never won an election for ages.
So would you say that
this kind of party would have emerged in the 80s and 90s, whereas now for 30 years it's been in decline simply because they have not made any changes at the top and in the out. I am afraid to say this, but it seems too late now, unless they make drastic change. And the family doesn't seem to be interested in that drastic change. Neither Sonia Gandhi nor Priyanka nor Rahul. So where will the change come from? I fail to see that.
So you said two important questions, think that it is possibly very late and that the Gandhi family does not want to be, leaving any control of the party. So it obviously means that you're possibly suggesting is that the election of Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge as the Congress president is also doing little beyond conveying the impression that it is also the party is still being controlled by the remote control. So where does the Congress party and where does the opposition be able to stage a comeback between now and the next year? We talked about 400 days. The BJP has already started talking about 400 days. They have started the reverse countdown, with the recent national executive meeting. In 2023, you have several important assembly elections, including in the states where the Congress has significant presence: Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Rajasthan. The performance of the Congress party is going to decide how much of elbow room they have with other opposition parties when they are negotiating a possible anti-BJP front or a kind of a seat adjustments for the 24 Lok Sabha elections.
Well, one place from where some change could come is the states. You allow strong local leaders some freedom. You see, allowed Ashok Gehlot freedom as well as Sachin Pilot, and between them they won Rajasthan.
Right.
In Chhattisgarh, you brought in Baghel, and they're not doing too badly. So similarly in Karnataka, the only problem is how do you put all those factions together? But if they are able to bring them together and then give them some autonomy, because they know the local, Siddaramaiah, for example, wants to stand from Kolar. He knows the local politics of the region. And if they are able to come together with the Janata Dal or something could be done. So the Congress's strength has always been strong leaders in the states. The problem has been these strong leaders have all been controlled from the top. So if some freedom was to be given and something was to be worked out in which some autonomy was given to the states, for example, even to Shashi Tharoor in Kerala, because he's popular in Kerala. It's not as
he's held on to the Thiruvananthapuram seat for a long time.
For a long time. And he's a highly respected person in Kerala as well as in the country. So one way that the Congress could begin is to give greater autonomy to the local. Support the local. Find out what do they want. What is it that would work in the localities and in the states. And rather than saying, no, this is going to be done and that is going to be done. If they begin there, at least there is some hope. For example, Karnataka, if they are able to do something, it would be a very big message. If they are able to bring together factions inside as well as bring together Janata Dal, and whenever these people have joined hands, they have won. Whenever they have joined hands, Congress has won. And it's a state which Congress was strong in earlier. And the Lingayats are, of course, with the BJP, but the Uppaligas and the other groups, Dalits, for example, Kharge could, mobilize the Dalits and so on.
Right.
So that is one possibility.
So would you say, that if I ask you, let's say that let's put a final question to you, that would you say or agree with my hypothesis based on your conversation and your very fine article, that the Bharat Jodo Yatra, Professor Sudha Pai, has actually enthused the party cadre and actually also transformed Rahul Gandhi's image? He's no longer seen as a reluctant politician. He's no longer seen as somebody who's stupid, but somebody who has a good message to convey. Despite all this, would you say that because of the structural problems and because of the time that has elapsed, and also because of the possible unwillingness of the Gandhi family to let things go, that the Congress is actually, the prospects are not very rosy, and thereby the BJP continues to be having a lead as far as the 2024 race is concerned?
It's on the face of it, it seems like that. But there are, as you said, 400 days.
That's right.
Something the Congress is able to do. There may be some hope. The other hope is that opposition parties join hands. I'm reminded of the anti-Congressism of the 1970s, but then at that time there was a strong leader and
Right.
the anti-Congressism worked. Right now, there doesn't seem to be any strong anti-BJP coming together. If that
Right.
happened and the Congress were to reach out to the others and not consider itself as the dominant party and the main opposition and so on, then maybe, because you see, the possibility is there that in every state an alliance is made. Wherever
Right.
Congress is strong, you give more seats to the Congress.
And
Wherever
wherever it is,
TMC is strong, you give more seats to the TMC.
that's right.
AAP is strong, if they could work out something, it's not at the national level. See, parliamentary majorities are created in the states. It is in
Right.
the states that they need to do something. So therefore, it is possible to work out this. And in this, the Congress will have to swallow some of its arrogance of the past. You know, it's always maintained itself as the dominant party and, you know, the party which brought about independence. It's now 75 years. I mean,
Right.
history run its course. So they will all have to reach out to each other as well as make some changes internally. They still have a chance. I'm not
Right.
ruling it out. They have a chance.
And
Challenges
really,
are there. The challenges are there. Let's hope they are
well,
able to figure out.
really, your golden words, that majorities are made in the states, and you have very important state elections coming up. Important state elections for the Congress party. It is for the Congress party to do well and then improve its prospects in negotiating with other opposition parties and put up a credible challenge against the BJP in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. Well, thank you, Professor Sudha Pai, for coming and joining us on this program. It's really been wonderful to have a discussion with you. Thank you so much.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.